Thank you so much for listening to another episode of CX Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Brady-Cesana. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of CX Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Brady-Cesana. Super excited for today's show, guys. We have an awesome guest. We have the Chief Customer and Marketing Officer at Freshworks joining us. Mika, say hello to the CX Nation.
Hello, CX Nation. It's good to be here. Great to see you, Adrian.
It's awesome to see you, and I was super jazzed for today's conversation. You have an incredible background. You've got all this ridiculously great experience even before Freshworks, and then frankly, you're at an awesome company that most of our listeners they know about intimately, right? We have a lot of we have customer experience, customer service, customer contact, client service leaders.
Yep.
And Freshworks literally built an incredible product for all of those people. So I'm pumped to hear your story, and I'm pumped to hear some of the things you guys are doing at Freshworks. To kick things off, microphone goes to you. Talk about some of the stepping stones. So like before we even get to Freshworks and before you even get into the seat that you're in today, how'd you get into the space? What drew you to the world of customer experience, customer marketing? What brought you to into this whole wonderful world that we're in of customer experience today?
It's a fine question, and I wish I could say, it's always been my dream, and this is exactly the path I prescribed for myself, but it's not. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I got out of school, so I thought I wanted to be in advertising, didn't get a job in advertising, so I went into consulting, and I was a consultant because I figured I would get some exposure to different industries and different types of jobs. And so what's been amazing with that is I got a good grounding into what it takes to think about the customer. And so every single role, although I've had a diversity of roles, has always been focused on using data to figure out how to focus on the customer. And I absolutely love what I get to do here. Everything that I've done in the past has led me to get to do something like I get to do here at Freshworks. I think the most common elements that I've had throughout my career is figuring out if I get a role, can I impact the trajectory of the company? Like, can I actually deliver impact? Do I get a role that actually has the remit to deliver that impact? And am I going to get to work with people? And this goes with one of your pillars. Do I get to work with a team that's insanely curious, that really wants to deliver high performance, but cares to do so in a way that's really collaborative and does so together versus doing it as a zero-sum game? And that's really important to me in terms of how we act as a team and how we perform as a team. And so those have been the common elements through all the roles that I've had. But beyond consulting, I then went into all the roles that I've had after that was just how to scale companies. And so as companies can scale by shifting their business model. So I got to work at Microsoft and Windows when they were going from on-prem to subscription software.
Super cool.
Yeah, it was really, it was a fascinating time because it was when we were an adjudicated monopolist and Apple was just coming into the PC space. So it was a really exciting time. Another instance is like you can go into new markets, you can go into different countries, and got to help Microsoft with its foray into Russia, Brazil, India, China. Working on things like going into different channels. So I got to work at Amazon and go into physical retail, which seems like a very strange but amazing thing to get to do.
A whole other beast. A whole other beast.
You take this juggernaut online and you try to, create experiences physically for a company like Amazon, which is truly extraordinary. Or, digitizing go-to-market processes. I did that at SAP and at F5, and I'm doing that now at Freshworks. Getting it to go into new customer segments, Adobe and Gartner and Microsoft. Got to work on the SMB segment. I get to do that here at Freshworks. So different markets, different countries, different business models just really set me up really well to get to work here at Freshworks, where I get to do marketing and sales and customer success and support. And so I get this end-to-end view of the customer, which is really cool. And the other golden thread of all these roles is, and you and I talked about it briefly before we started, is just thinking about how to just remove complexity and make things simple for customers. Because regardless of how technology innovates, customers just want the same thing. They want to be heard. They want to be seen.
Yep.
Want to be understood. They want, if they have a problem, please resolve it quickly. If it's not resolved quickly, give me an update and let me know what the status is.
Keep me informed. Yep.
And that hasn't changed at all, despite the fact that there's been a ton of innovation. And so it's been really exciting to see how, waves of innovation have affected our industry.
So number one, this is all awesome. You just mentioned some of the biggest companies planet Earth, by the way, right? With Amazon and with Microsoft. And so, and then, and I got to go back to the consulting part too. I do from time to time, this will come up where some of our incredible guests, they'll at some point, they were either consulting or they had consultants working for them, right? And so when I hear this, um, I think for some of our listeners, people that never had the opportunity to do any type of consulting work, number one, I know it's easy to roll your eyes when you see consultants roll into the office or roll into the working session rooms. But one of the things, having been one for many years myself, and then obviously having met incredible people that have built huge businesses with or with the help of consultants, it is a superpower to be able to go and see how multiple different companies attack similar problems. And even if they're in different industries, different verticals, even if they're different sizes, you could be working with a public company, you could be working with an SMB that's got its first 10 million bucks in the door a year.
Yep.
You get a chance to see how different people, different teams, different tools, different executive leadership teams. This is a big one for me. Is like when things started taking off for me, Mika, is when I started finally realizing, oh, all these exec teams have different appetites, different preferences, different goals. And then to your point about like what type of people do you want to work with, right? We all spend more time with the people that we work with than we do our wives and our husbands and our kids. Call what it is. If you like your job, that's at least a good thing. But if you don't, it's another story. But super, super cool that you got to kind of spend time all over the world doing that. And no surprise as to why you have this incredible role as the Chief Customer Marketing Officer at Freshworks, today. Let's jump into the first pillar of team.
Sure.
Can you talk about your team at Freshworks, talk about Freshworks team as a whole, and let's kind of get into some of the different things that you folks are doing on the team side when it comes to kind of how you guys manage the Freshworks customer journey today.
Well, I love the fact that this is a pillar, first of all, and that it's the first pillar, because I just don't think that anything can happen without the team. And it's not just the people; it's the composition of the skills that you've got together, and it's especially driven by the culture and the norms and the processes that you put in place, and that's extremely important. And why I came to Freshworks because of the team. Freshworks has a really unique spark and focus on customers and desire to do the right thing and work together to get that right thing done, and do what it takes to get that thing done. I do think teams make the difference between good companies and great companies. You can have a great strategy, great set of processes, great feedback loop, without a really, really extraordinary team. I don't think any of those can really perform. Any of those can perform as well as they need to without team. And so that's a huge foundational element for us internally at Freshworks. And also, the thing we do is power, is power support organizations to be able to, support other employees or support their customers. So we support teams of people to be able to support other people, whether it's teams within an organization through ITSM or employee service management, or it's customer service. And so we use the same ethos that we have inside our company to be able to service our own customers, which is really exciting, especially if you're a support individual. You're typically answering a mail or a chat or a Slack or a call. And it's
Yep.
not someone saying, "Hey, I really love my laptop. Thank you so much." It's really, "Oh, so breaking,"
Yeah,
or,
you guys are the best. I'm taking time out of my day to tell you, you guys are the best. I love
right?
you.
If you're a customer support person, your customer's not calling you to usually tell you about how much they love your product. They're calling to say, I can't log in, my bike is broken, whatever, parade of horribles that they're going to unleash. So it's a pretty thankless job. And so we want to make sure that we equip these people with the ability to delight employees or delight their customers. And also, frankly, I know that this means a lot to you, is just making sure that, people like their jobs themselves, right? And so, that is a huge motivator. So team is really a huge foundational element for us at Freshworks, both again, inside of our company as well as on behalf of our customers.
I love that, Mika. I love that. And then I can already tell that you completely agree with what I'm about to say, which is you can't you cannot make world-class customer experience without having excellent employee experiences. Like, it starts with the guys and the gals that are going to take every one of those calls, every one of those chats, every one of those emails, every one of those meetings. That's really what it's all about. And now, taking a step further, interesting your call out of like, you guys literally built a product and have this entire platform solution to go help all the guys and gals that are doing the same, like doing that at that massive scale for all sorts of different types of businesses and companies and different service sets, different solutions, all the things. So really, really cool. And I couldn't agree more on the team front. What, with you in the chief customer and the chief marketing role, what does your team kind of look like? Are there specific roles or specific departments that kind of roll up to you every single day that you're sort of spending the most time on or thinking about the most? Or can you talk about sort of what your world looks like as the CCO, CMO?
Well, the marketing team rolls up to me, so so I get to work on branding elements. I get to work on demand gen. I love working on all of it, but I love working also on the customer advocacy piece. So making sure that we're making our customers more successful. They invested, and they, often when you pick a tool, you're putting yourself on the line, saying, "Hey, I think we should buy this one." And so we want to make sure that not just the investment for the organization goes well, but we want to make sure that they're successful as individuals too.
They're betting on their job. Call it what it is, Mika. You're right. Project champions before the guys and gals that have to bring that thing, that possible willy or where, to an exec sponsor who's going to sign off and say, "Look, if you think that if you've done all the diligence and you know this is the best one for our organization, I'll sign off on it, and then let's see how it goes." And these are expensive investments too.
So, I mean, they're putting themselves on the line, and, this can make or break careers. And so we pride ourselves in being career makers for people and our customers. And so, that means a lot to us. So from a marketing standpoint, the marketing folks that get to work on advocacy are gold and really important as well. And that's something that, we've spent a lot of time trying to bolster since I've been here. And then I deal with sales organization. So we want to make sure that, customers don't feel like they're a transaction, that they feel like we understand their needs, we understand what they're trying to accomplish, we understand them as people, and we get to know them. And so that's an exciting part of the role. And then we want to make sure that they have it's just not we get the check and then we walk away. We want to make sure that we drive this motion that they feel like they can get up to speed quickly, which is what we pride ourselves on. Like we can get you up to speed in weeks, not months or years, because like you said, you put your career on the line, and your CFO will be like, the clock's ticking. We just paid
Those damn CFOs. Those damn CFOs. No, I'm kidding.
hold into them, right? And so making sure we can get our customers up to speed quickly. And so we get to I get to work on the organization that gets to drive implementation and use of our products. And then sometimes things don't work out so well, and so we've got the support organization that I get to work with every day. So I can't say that I spend more time with one versus the other. Where I'll deep dive is when we might see a consistent trend where there's a set of customers that are finding they're having an issue, and we have to deep dive and make sure we get rid of that challenge. Or if there's something exciting that we're announcing, I get to work in marketing to be able to announce that great thing and make sure that it ripples through the customer experience once they've bought. So it's really a privilege to get to work at every end, and having customers discover us and then take them through the entire life cycle and have them be use and adopt our products and be delighted and continue to use them and advocate on behalf. So it's an awesome job, working end to end in all the areas that I get to dive into.
Um, I I completely agree. And taking a step further, there's been maybe a handful of episodes that when you start to see the overlap of what traditional CMOs and then what modern CCOs or CXOs are doing, and let me be more blunt. So, guys, you're thinking about imagine any type of customer journey from your start to your end. What Mika just said, it just punches me in the nose in terms of like you've got to make customers aware a thing even exists. Then you need to get good or have the assets, information, or the storytelling to get that customer to consider you as a potential option. Then our wonderful sales friends come into play. Then you got to convert those people. You got to literally bring those people through the game, educate, inform. Do, let's call it what it is, guys. Best salespeople in the world. They add a shit ton of value before they get that contract signed, because that's what they know it takes, and that's what it requires to gain the trust of an executive sponsor and an exec or a project champion. And then better yet, you work with some huge, massive companies. Welcome into mid-market and enterprise world, where then you need to be able to persuade and create value for a team or a committee of decision makers to push that through. Then you convert them. and you start onboarding, and right, and like the with onboarding, this is a funny one. Some execs or some CEOs or they might roll their eyes at it, or they might say it's too expensive, it's not possible, we can't do it faster, do products got to do it, all this stuff. Sure, maybe, but the reality is onboarding and time to value is, from a CX perspective anyway, or from an analytical perspective, it's one of the easiest places to look and see, like what you just said. Are you getting people up to speed and flying with your fully utilizing your tool, almost borderline mastering it in the first 30 days, where then everybody's going to be like, this is extremely dope, we love it? Or are you one of those companies where, like, you don't check in, you don't care, there's not additional resources, funds, or people to be able to make sure that that's happening or measuring it? So onboarding, and then you move into the game of like customer success, account management, and so like what I'm getting at is like, part of why I do what I do today, and I love that you called this out and said that so eloquently. We get to touch every part of the business. We get to learn from all of these other SMEs. We learn from our marketing friends, our sales friends, our operative friends, our product friends. We learn from our wonderful executive leader friends who are obviously helping us steer the boat in the right direction. There is not a better job. And then it's funny that the consulting commonality that you and I share, but like, there's not a better job if you're one of those people that loves getting into all of it. If you're not one of those people, maybe a traditional SME role is better and find your little cut. But like, I love that. I love that you get to do that. And then you get to do this at a huge company, right? Freshworks is number one, done just a brilliant job growing and changing the way that customer focused solutions are being used. And then to your point of people, you guys have a massive team over there, right? So like, all of this stuff is super, super, super cool. Before I jump from team, along all of the experiences you've had, for our listeners, if there's one of your like very top playbook plays, or one of the biggest things that you focus on in the team pillar, what would be like the one thing that's really worked well for you over your career? Like if there's been like one way that you've always kind of gotten better and better and better at kind of ways that you manage the team, ways that you communicate the team, build the team, hire for the team, what would be like your one team golden nugget or CTA that the listeners can walk away from?
I think the one team nugget to drive and deliver cohesion and have people, be willing to lock arms and run through walls and cheerlead, even if it's not their work, cheerlead one another. And when someone's struggling, be able to pick them up is really, I think, a culture based on a common set of values. And so I think that that is what binds people together, is when they feel like, I can build trust and I trust this person. I trust, and they trust me. And building that sense of trust and a sense of shared values, I think drives, again, a collaborative nature that is unstoppable. And you can get through some rocky times, and you can celebrate like but no other people can, if you have that shared set of values. So I do think that the really most important part of teams, and I think the distinguishing element of good versus great teams is their values and their culture.
I love that. Um, Mika, let's jump into the second pillar, tools. And I imagine we're going to get into Freshworks quite a bit here, but a company like Freshworks, number one, you guys work with 70 plus thousand companies across the planet. You've got some of the biggest global names that all of us know about, Disney and Bridgestone and S&P and all these incredible companies. Um, how has the tools part of the game had to kind of come together to create this type of business, to create this type of market value? And um, for you as a CMO and a CCO, how have you kind of thought about how you have to manage your part of the game with the tech stack, and how have you kind of thought about which tools you're going to need to leverage, how you sort of are understanding which ones are working and which ones got to go, and then which ones, and then like how you're for your team anyway, creating focus and clarity around what the expectations are for how you want your team leveraging the tech stack that's in front of them. I'd love to kind of hear how you think about tools.
I mean, I I use tools, right, across our entire organization, from marketing to through to support. And I'm accountable to make sure that marketing, every single function operates really effectively and efficiently while driving the performance and growth, while still raising the bar in terms of employee satisfaction and customer satisfaction. And that's a set of trade-offs and balances that we have to strike. While we also are selling tools and marketing tools and supporting tools, and we drink our own champagne. And so I feel like, you know, if I, take a sneak peek at the, a bit at your fourth pillar, which is feedback. Like we drink our own champagne and we are customer zero for our own products. And so we have an empathy for our own customers. We're not a sample size of one, and we don't presuppose that we are the same as every customer. But when it comes to us, our ethos is that we don't, I don't, I'm not coming into each of the organizations and saying, look, you have to cut costs by 10%. I'm like, you have to actually be as efficient as possible to do and enable your humans within your organizations to do what only humans can do. And what I found is that, each practice, whether it's, we just recently did a website redesign, and the folks that are working on the website redesign realized that they could use AI to drive the development, 90+% faster. And it wasn't a mandate, it was more of a, hey, enable yourself to get the right tools so you can do what you do best. And that's been a motivating factor, whether you're a web dev person or whether you're a salesperson or a support individual. That's been the motivating factor across every single part of our business. I think the biggest challenge is making sure that we're not duplicative in our tools.
Yep.
So there's
Yep.
to drive content, for example, but you can drive content in support, in sales, in marketing. And so we want to
Yep.
make sure that we do want to make sure that as we use tools, we're creating a secure environment so that we're not sharing private information about our company or about, worse yet, our customers. And so we need to make sure that as we drive this notion of having everybody be a pioneer and an innovator and try and test new things, that we're keeping our customers in mind, not just the outcomes we drive for them, but also their security and their privacy. And then we want to make sure that we don't drive an efficiency in one part of the company and then drive an inefficiency somewhere else.
Yeah. Right.
That siloed data in sales that frankly the customer success people can't access. So if you can't access the use case, for example, for why a customer bought what they want, you have a customer then that's ready to implement, and the last thing you want to do is interview that customer and go, so Adrian, why did you buy this?
Yeah. Why are you here? I don't know why you're here, and you just spent money, and it's like, what? Yep.
Because tools can enable the fact that, you could give a lot of information to a sales organization. If you didn't have the warm handoff, at least the customer success person can see the entire relationship with tools, to be able to, pick up where the salesperson left off and be able to say, hey, Adrian, I see that you're really trying to drive, more customer satisfaction across your multiple locations, et cetera.
Yep.
And be able to, again, continue the relationship. And so our use of tools is really to actually, our motivation is really to enhance the relationship that we have with our customers and make sure that we can, we can continue to raise the bar. And that motivation helps us, again, empathize for our own customers who are doing the very same thing.
Yep.
So, that's what we want to do for our customers, is give them tools that, with all due respect to consultants, which, I was one, you were one, and we hire them. Often when you're going forward with your ROI for your investment, you have licensing costs. You typically have implementation costs.
Yep.
You want those as well. And so
Yep.
the drive is making sure we have, really extraordinary enterprise grade solutions that you don't need a massive team of consultants to implement, and you don't need them to stay. Because the worst part is that when they have to stay, because that's the only way you can keep your system up and running, that
Yep.
adds tax, and it actually taxes the ROI that you can deliver. And so we want to make sure that we're really easy to implement, easy to support and use, and that just regular people, regular admins using the system can make the tweaks necessary to the system to change a field, to change the workflow, to be able to, best serve their employees or their customers. And then we also, what I hate in being someone who actually, signs the invoices and the POs for hundreds of tools, I don't love surprises.
Yep.
Thinking I'm signing a bill for, 10, and then I end up getting a bill later for 20 or 30 because there was add-ons.
100%.
That we don't want our customers to experience that too. So we pride ourselves on having, no surprises for our customers and making sure they know what they're going to pay for and know what they're going to pay for now and later. And so that's something that we, that's a principle that we apply. We don't want ourselves, I don't want as a practitioner, but I certainly don't want our customers experiencing that either. So that in tooling, I think, is really important. And then making sure that, again, we go the last mile and we think about the experience when things don't go so well. That's when, when things aren't great is a true sign of character.
Yeah, it's
Whether you're
true.
on
It's 100% true.
and stuff goes wrong when you're on a hiking trip, or stuff goes wrong with one of your tools. it really, your true character as a company comes through in terms of how you're there for your customers. And we want to make sure that we're there for our customers and make sure we do what it takes to get them up and running, because they don't want to interrupt servicing their employees or servicing their end customers too. So that's something that we focus a lot on. And that goes by way, it sounds like it, I'm dipping into by way of process, but tools can enable all these things. And so I don't think you can just think of tools as ones and zeros. I think you have to think about your third pillar, which is the processes that underlie them, that enable them to work. Otherwise, without that, as well as great teams, I think tools are just, they're a tax onto your system.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I keep saying this again and again and again because it's just a huge part of, when we started CX Chronicles outside of the podcast, like with the work that we do with our clients and with our partners. I remember almost 5 years ago, Mika, I thought the whole problem that we were going to go out there and solve, number one, chronicle how the best and the brightest and some of the most incredible guys and gals that are leading the biggest companies. Number one, let's start there. Let's chronicle how the best are doing so that we understand where we are, where we've been. Maybe even we start to understand where we're going to go, because you talk to the best and the brightest, you do hear a lot of futuristic types of things, right? Or you start to follow the puck, right? For lack of a better term. But a couple things. Number one, over all of so as we've built this community, as we've built the CX Nation, we had the pleasure of talking to like thousands and thousands of people that do this stuff every damn day. Then we got to talk to like, we're almost, we're coming up on the 300th episode. We had to talk to 1,000 people to get to 300 episodes. It's all conversion math, guys. It's all pipeline stuff. And then frankly, as we started to work with more and more and more of our clients, and then as we started to build more and more incredible strategic partnerships with companies like Freshworks, we started to realize, when you think about customer experience, and this is crazy because most really intelligent, super bright, experienced people wouldn't necessarily guess this, but technology became our new North Star, meaning, globally today, companies are spending $1.27 trillion on software. Some of the best companies, and this is also hard to compute and measure because there's not a tremendous amount of aggregated math that can can display this for us right now. But some of the best companies on planet Earth only can use or only utilize said tech stack to like a 30 to 40% clip. And so you think about any other space in the world where you got 30% of 1.27 trillion, man, that's all. And then go to our back to consulting brand land, like that's a tremendous amount of waste, number one. But number two, no wonder why you said some things inside of tooling that I cannot forget. You said some things about making it easy to work with customers, making it easy to implement, making it foolproof in a way where any one of the folks that are going to be our ICP people, the customer leaders, customer focused business leaders, where we can pop in and we can, because of our past knowledge and the past tools we've used, and just know what we know about the world and how to, that is a game changer. Because I think part of why Freshworks, HubSpot, Intercom, and a handful of other players, I think part of why you guys are probably making Salesforce sweat pretty good, because I know it's Salesforce. I know this is bold to say, but Salesforce still to this day requires some of the things you talked about. You buy it, it doesn't necessarily work out of the box. You might have some sneeze in house that can get you sort of set up. Then you realize, shit, this ain't working at all. It doesn't connect to ERP. It doesn't connect to marketing. Doesn't need what they have. Ops doesn't have what they have. And the analysts are all pissed because they just want to connect everything back to Tableau or Power BI or whatever solution they're using, right, for the analytical piece. And then on top of it, the consultants never leave for that tool. It's called what it is. Even when you have a smart in-house, inevitably, with just the way the project roadmaps and the way that different strategic priorities always are moving and changing and pitching and pivoting in every company. So it's funny. I just think I love some of the stuff that you're kind of talking about with tools, and then the eating your own, eating your own, dog food, or eating your own breakfast, anything, because you're right, with the tools that you guys have built, customer service tools, IT employee experience tools, CRM tools, and then you guys have done a brilliant job of continuing to expand and connect. Right, since I've been because I think I used my first Freshworks product, Mika. I was still in New York City, so 12, it was years ago. It was probably 13, 14 years ago. Was the first time I used it, and then we've continued to see it come up in our clients over the years, and then we've continued to and everything you said is very accurate. It's easy. It connects well. You can get up and running really fast. For SMBs, you could shave a lot of unnecessary fat with some of the other expenses we're talking about, or the resources that often come a part of it. So like all that stuff is awesome. One question I have though on the tool start before we jump off this, 70,000 companies. I can't even imagine how the amount of individual tools and technology that like your customer portfolio has in aggregate. What do you think like has been what's been the most interesting thing in your time at Freshworks in terms of seeing how Freshworks makes it easy for clients to also be able to connect to what some of the tools in the tech stack that will not go away. Maybe they're moving to Freshworks and they're excited because it would replace X or Y or Z. But what's like the one thing you've been the most impressed with how once that decision's been made, how it connects with the rest of the tech stack, or because you've been at some pretty incredible technology companies. So like what's the one way that you guys are trying to like differentiate with the connection piece? Because everyone struggles with integrations and everyone struggles with having one view. How do you guys kind of look at it at Freshworks?
So I think, I mean, I think where you're headed and what you're alluding to from a tooling standpoint is, I mean, tooling can, I mean, an individual tool can do great things, but when you compound a bunch of individual tools on top of one another and you kind of have legacy thinking and those connections don't take place, you've actually created more tech debt and more complexity.
Exactly.
It puts a drag on your employees, it puts a drag on your ROI, it puts a drag
Spot
on
on. Spot on. Yep.
'cause you can't be as successful as you'd want to be once you have that much debt. And so the things that we're finding that we're able to do is, we've got, some customers, for example, a customer called Citizens Advice, and what they had was they had disparate views of their customer engagement or interactions. And so if they engaged with customers on email, it was one way that one record or set of records that they had for their customers. It was on the phone, it was another set of records. And so if it was you, Adrian, there was no possibility for them to see one view of Adrian or and so are CXChronicles. And so there was duplication of effort and there wasn't consistency in terms of how the individual customers were treated. So what happened was we were able to come in with Freshdesk and able to give them one view of the customer. They could get rid of all the disparate systems where there wasn't something that you needed for social, for email, for phone. There was one system that they could use for regardless of, and be where their customers wanted them to be, meaning however they wanted to contact them, they were still recognized as a customer. So it took away duplication. It took away like a lot of coordination that had to happen on the back end manually to try to figure out like, Adrian, did you call this person? No, I didn't call this person, and having to fish. And it's an awkward position to put an agent. It's super inefficient. And so it really
Wait,
helped.
Mika, really quick. You don't love it when you get bumped to the third call and someone's like, "Hey, Mika, what are you calling in about today?" And it's like, "Oh my God, it's 2025. What is going on? What are you
Real,
calmer? Are you calmer than me when that happens?"
well,
Probably.
I try to empathize, but then there was this one. I'm usually on 3 or 4 flights a week. I bought this nice luggage because I thought I deserve this. I'm with my luggage more than I am with my family. And it has broken every 7 months. And every time and this is a brand that should recognize, like, that should know its customers, that maybe they shouldn't know me because it shouldn't break this much. And it's broken probably 8 times in 5 years.
What?
Uh, and every time I call them, they forget, they don't know who I am. And it's just like, it's just maddening. Anyway, so no, by this time, I'm not that calm.
It's crazy too that like so a couple things democratization of all the information. So yeah, get it. Aggregating data and making it centralized view, get it. It's difficult, but like just democratize the customer information. Whether it's the customer support rep, the salesperson, the marketing people that need to know how to get more of those people. And then the other thing is this: why doesn't every company on planet Earth do some lightweight education on making sure that every guy and gal in the business understands LTV? Like understand like, hey, this customer, because it's all relative. Like whether it's like a $9 a month subscription to something here, or whether it's $1,000 baggage, like like baggage set, like understand LTV so that like it's crazy to me. I don't.
Like, and these tools, like you mentioned Salesforce. Salesforce is a great like tool if you want to have a bespoke, customer support, process and set of experiences, but most companies can't afford it. Most companies don't. And so there's a lot of tools like Freshworks that are, accessible. So it's not like out of reach for a small business or a mid-sized business to get the right tools to have that unified view of their customer, to be able to address their customers' needs and meet them where they are. So it is, I do find it astounding where really big brands and really well-known companies that should have an affordability for, some tool, um, aren't using them, to live up to the brand that they espouse. So it is mind-blowing to me.
I couldn't agree more. And you know what, you already said it, but leading into process, like this is another example too of oftentimes the tools and the solutions in front of them. I can't tell you how many times Miko, like with some of our clients at CXC, we'll start off on team or tech audits. We'll be looking at all these things. We don't know this, we don't know that, we don't know, and we'll get into customer portfolio reviews. We're like, okay, let's see how quickly we can learn everything about, and then you unpack the economics of it and the mathematics of it. Or to your point, how many don't because of a missing process or because of a missing playbook or because of a missing leadership push towards, I would argue, letting the guys and gals that are on the front line co-author or co-own those playbooks so that they're being updated every damn day as you learn from all the stuff. Um, that's just a huge part. But for you, with all these companies you've been at, can you just spend like a minute or two talking about like how have you kind of thought about process playbooks or just general information and knowledge management across your career?
I think the biggest untapped opportunity is having functional areas talk to one another. And so you could be extraordinary at customer success. You can be extraordinary at, shipping product. But if we don't have, the silos within an organization actually talking to one another, it becomes very apparent to your employees because it becomes really complex to work at the company, becomes very epically complex to your customer that you're clearly not talking to one another either. And so I think the biggest opportunity, from a process standpoint, is connecting the dots. So you actually don't think on behalf of you don't think as silos in terms of functional areas. You think on behalf of the customer, and you think just take a walk as a customer and try to walk through all of our experiences as a customer to have to deal with all of the people inside the company, to try to figure something out, either whether it's trying to figure out information to buy, information to try it, or information to implement it, or implementation if there or a challenge to, when, in support. It's like, think about what it's like to travel, and they have to go to 10 different places to get the answer to different questions. And so I do think that connecting the dots and the a huge benefit, and benefit to having worked at so many companies is realizing the value of connecting the dots and connecting silos within companies on behalf of the customer, and doing so by not just connecting the dots and having an inside view, but doing so by just taking the customer and walking through what a customer has to experience, and then that starts to show you where connections drop or where connections need to be formed. And so there's processes and there's incentives to drive a shared goal for a common objective, so that it's not just like, well, I finished my job, Adrian, I don't know about you, but I'm just going to pass it
Yep.
down the line. And it doesn't, and not knowing what happens before you have to attack a problem, and not knowing what happens after, I think is a horrifying thing to realize as a leader, that the person that's doing a task has no idea what happened before and no idea what's happening after with the customer engagement. And so I think it's connecting those dots across silos on behalf, and having the customer as a North Star to recognize why you're doing what you're doing.
Yep.
I think a potential in a company.
I love that. It makes me think of two things. Number one, just the power and the importance of at some level of regularity going back to your customer or your user journey maps. And I know you're laughing because how many CEOs have I love all of our CEO friends, but and I get it, that's a very hard job. But like, what are you gonna do spending X amount of dollars and X amount of time? What's this shit? We got to go sell more shit. And I'm with you, I get it. But what you just said, how do you have the best and the brightest and the smartest people that work for you outside of their part of the journey that they own? Because there's only a couple of us that see the whole damn thing. You're spot on. We're in almost every company in the world. Accountants don't give a shit about anything until it gets to the accounting part of the journey. Developers oftentimes they're focused in their silo of development and engineering. They're often front end, back end. There's so many like it. Go ahead.
Or their feature that they're delivering
Or the
versus
I was gonna say huge companies like you guys. Someone owns CRM, someone owns customer service, someone owns IT, someone like so. And then lastly, um, journey mapping is one thing because guys, it can be you can get a massive ROI spending a little bit of time sharpening the axe before cutting the tree. That's a fact. But number two, and then I got to imagine someone like you at some of these big companies. assembling committees or task forces. You know, at CXC, we've had the pleasure of building a number of different VOC task forces where we do exactly what you just said, where companies that don't have that 360, they don't have the marketing, the sales, the onboarding, the success, the development, the engineer, the finance, and then an executive sponsor, or maybe even two, if not more the better, but seeing that all come together, because it is mind blowing where people go, I've been in, we've done hundreds and hundreds of maps because wait, we do what? We do what? I'm sorry, Bob, but you've been here for 12 years. This is what we do at that part of the journey. And it's for fun, but like, so huge opportunities there. Mika, let's jump into the fourth and final pillar of feedback. And I'm excited for this one. And I'm going to tee this one up to you so you can answer it open. But you guys have customers, you have employees, you have partners, right? You have strategic partners at Freshworks like CC. How do you in your CMO CCO role kind of think about number one, just wrangling all that feedback, but then number two, how do you empower the team to be able to go about getting shit done and taking that feedback and then making something happen with it?
I mean, the voice of the customer is a really important part. And I think that I love this pillar specifically just because if you have an extraordinary team, you have great tools, you have great process, you've got to keep reinventing and evolving and being agile and understanding what's happening in the world. And the best, great source of feedback is your customers. And frankly, you've got to hold gold the feedback you might get from a customer who's sad, or frankly, someone who didn't become a customer, and understand if they're ICP and they didn't become a customer, understand why, and get feedback for people who may stop being a customer for whatever reason, right? And so there's feedback that you can get in a lot of different places that we have to make sure we source, and so that we don't over rotate on why we lost a deal, and make sure that we're rotating on why a customer might be delighted, or why a customer might be sad, or why a customer left us. And so the thing we seek to do is, stand up of, like we're standing up now, a more mature voice of the customer practice, so that we can capture feedback at every single stage, so that, and we can aggregate that feedback. And frankly, a big piece is aggregating the feedback, because not every single point of feedback is feedback that we're going to action and change a product for. But if we see, and so we need to be able to look at common threads and themes, and we need to be able to prioritize the feedback to say what's really acute, what's must have right now, like urgent P0, we've got to fix this right now. And then what are some things that are going to drive some innovation in the future, and what are things that are nice to have but not necessary, because you can't do everything with every single piece of feedback. So I think aggregating it into one view is important, prioritizing it and having alignment across multiple functions on what we need to do is important. But in the moment, we have to make sure that we empower our teams to be able to take feedback if a customer's irate and do the right thing by them. Whether that right thing might be resetting their systems, giving them a credit, getting them in touch with a partner, getting them in touch with an engineer, getting them in touch with me, because they want to talk to someone senior, and make sure that they understand that they are empowered to do the right thing for the customer, and they're not just they're not just swirling trying to figure out what to do, because the customer wants to be heard. The customer wants someone to address their need right away. So we do want to make sure, by way of feedback, that if a customer is in the moment and is having a really acute reaction to something, founded because their system's down or not, we want to make sure that we're equipping everybody with the right tools. Not, and it doesn't have to be a physical tool like on their computer, but the right tools in terms of in their head what they need to be doing, and empower them and enable them with the right mindset to do the right thing. And so there's the aggregate set of data, and then there's in the moment type processes that you put in place, and physical tools, and the right culture, so that people do the right thing by our customers. And so it's all those pillars all at the same time that enable us to be able to do the pillars of team and tools and process, that enable us to do the best thing possible with our feedback, because we need tools to actually frankly capture feedback, capture NPS, whether it's in the moment and it's CSAT scores that we're getting from right after you get off a support call, or if it's relational NPS. We want to actually have all the listening mechanisms out there, just to make sure that we're not sitting in an echo chamber assuming we know what the customer wants. We're hearing what the customer wants, and we're actually hearing what what our employees are saying too. And so we have a set of like a whole bunch of different listening posts to be able to make sure we get employee feedback. because like you said, sad employees don't necessarily delight customers.
No, they
So
don't.
and they don't really delight customers. So we want to make sure that we're creating a great environment for our employees as well.
I love that, Mika. I mean, VOC, VOE, right? Voice of employee. Recently we've had a couple guests coming on talking about VOB, voice of builder, because the other interesting thing is once you get to your guys' point where you have this, because that's mature. Let's call it what it's for our listeners. Like Freshworks didn't get to the revenue level and the team level and the logo level that they're at without having a pretty damn tight game. But the people that might care about a VOC report, the people that might care about a voice of employee report, the people that might care about a voice of builder or voice of engineering report, very, very common, even in the best and the brightest, smartest companies on planet Earth. Sometimes those folks still speak different languages. So there's still this other piece of like to be able to democratize this stuff so that people can actually normalize or translate. And then you're empowering the people by giving them information, frankly. And the more people know, for the right types of businesses, especially if you're innovative and if you're trying to super growth, rocket ship into the future, information is power. And then more importantly, the best and the brightest guys and gals on planet Earth, the smartest professionals on planet Earth, they want to work at a company like that. They want to work at a company where they're empowered. Like the more that they can learn, the more that they can contribute, the more that they can produce, the more that they can collaborate. Collaborative energy is arguably becoming one of the most valuable people resources. You might be dumb as a bag of bricks, but if you're the guy or gal that can get 10 people around a room and make people laugh and make people comfortable and get people to have real conversations, that's extremely valuable for any business. But Mika, this has been literally an absolute pleasure. I'm so pumped that we finally were able to get you on the show. Before I let you go, where can people that if they want to learn more about Freshworks, where can people go to learn more about you, your incredible team, and all the incredible products that you guys build at Freshworks today?
Best place to go is freshworks.com. You can navigate there and you can find ways to get in touch with us if you want to talk to a human. You can always get in touch with me through LinkedIn personally, but I would say, freshworks.com to find more out about Freshworks.
And we're going to check out your newly updated website too.
Yes.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Mika, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining the CX Chronicles.
Thank you, Adrian. Great to see you too.
Great to see you. Be sure to check out the CXC website. And as always, find us on any of your favorite podcast players, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and more.